Thanks for joining us for this episode of Coffee with Closers, where business leaders share insights on how to build businesses from the ground up and best practices for innovating in their industry.
Hey Adriana, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Sam, for having me. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
For the audience that don't know about you, can you share a little bit about who you are?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Adriana Osorio. I'm the COO of Osorio Metal Supply, Inc. We're a family-owned business for 27 years now. We sell all types of metal, hot rolled, cold rolled, aluminum, stainless steel, to fence contractors, general contractors, various industries, grocery stores, museums. If you need metal, we're the people to go to. So yeah, that's who we are.
So you have a very interesting story.
Yes, my father's story. He started the business 27 years ago in the early 70s. My father came to the United States from Mexico. He crossed the border with just one change of clothes in one little small cookie box. And he made his way to Chicago and he started working as a janitor in a pizza company in Logan Square. Mm-hmm. And he was a janitor there for a while and they moved him up to an engineer because he has such a brilliant mind. I wish I had his brilliant engineering mind, but I don't. And it was there, and it's interesting because back in Mexico, his trade was in carpentry. He wasn't in the metal industry at all. He had no knowledge of it. He was not a welder, but it was in the pizza company that they asked him. They use him for all sorts of things. If there was a problem, go to Ruben, he'll solve it. And one day they asked him to build like a security door gate, and he didn't know how to weld, but he like stayed there all night learning how to weld it, and he installed it. And long story short, the company left to Ohio, and they asked my father, come and move with us to Ohio. We're setting up a plant there. And he said, absolutely not. There are no tortillas in Ohio. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to move my Mexican family to Ohio where there's no tortillas. So he stayed, and that's where he started our business in a garage. He started making fences. So he put up our residential fence, and then he put up the neighbors, and then the neighbor, and before you knew it, he was in Hyde Park, Evanston, West Side, North Side, all over the place installing fences at a time where it was still sort of new. And mind you, he did not speak English throughout this whole thing. So I really don't know how he did it, but it was his drive. You know, the need and then the opportunity he took because it was new. And he's like, I see that there's a need in the city and I'm gonna take advantage of it. So then after installing for a while, he decided to pivot and shift to just reselling metal to people just like him, fence installers, fence fabricators. And so now we're a full service metal supplier. And I joined 4 years ago. And when I joined, my dad did all the hard work. He established it, he created our customer base. I just had to go in and look at any other problems, identify the problems, and see what I could do to solve them and to take it to the next level. So there's like a saying, like, what gets you there does not keep you there. What keeps you there is change. And so I for sure needed to identify what was needed in order to change and grow. And one of the things that you have to do to keep up with the times with the environment, and there's 3 different things, or several, I would say. There's like the political, legal realm that sort of impacts your environment. There's cultural shifts that impact your environment, and then there's technology that impacts your environment. And if you don't adapt, you're not going to grow. And one of the things for small business owners is technology is so easy to just sort of use and implement. It's not that expensive, and it gives you your return on your investment almost immediately, if not for sure. So some of the things that I implemented 4 years ago when I went on board was website. Right away, we changed our website. We made it more visually appealing. We created that trust with our customer, because I feel like people nowadays, they don't want to waste their time. Like as a consumer, when I'm gonna go visit a place, I Google search it, I look at their website, oh cool, they're legitimate, they're established, I'm gonna go. It creates that trust. So I did that. I think that really helped. And then it brings me to the next one, which was reviews. For 20 plus years, we had one Yelp review. And in my industry, I think the people there, they're not that tech savvy maybe, or they're on the go. So they're not going to easily go back to their office and sit there and turn on their computer and review me. So I hired this service that makes it much easier and encourages your customers to review you. Well, they'll send an email right away. My customer could be like at a job site and gets the email on his smartphone and just right away, 1 through 5. What star are you going to give them? 5, of course. Do you want to leave a lengthy review? You can. If you don't want to, that's fine. And it shoots it right to Google or Yelp or whatever you want. And so that has really helped because we have new customers every single day. I see new faces all the time. And I ask them, oh, hey, how did you hear about us? For so long, my dad didn't use any marketing or any advertising. It was all word of mouth, which is very old school, and it worked great for us. You treat the customer well, they're going to spread the news. But with the reviews, they'll tell me, I Google searched you and your reviews are so good that's why I came. And I'm like, yes, whatever I implemented or what I implemented was perfect. And lastly, we needed a point of sale system. We're very old school where we had a 3-carbon paper where we would, write out the customer's entire order, put the quantity, times it by the price. We had a big Bible book that had all our prices, and we would have to flip through it. Oh, I can't find this price. And then when the customer wanted to change something on the order, we would grab whited out all 3 papers, the yellow, the white, and the pink. So as you can imagine, if you want to grow and you have new customers, you cannot create that hold up. You're not going to be efficient. You're not going to be fast. And there's a lot of room for error to be that way. So our point of sale system, it tracks our customers. It rings people out so much more quickly. You're able to see what they purchased. They'll come up and say, hey, I want to purchase exactly what I purchased a week ago. Look me up. And now we can. Before we couldn't. Inventory tracking, accounting. We had to, before, calculate every single invoice by hand. Now it's click, 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 and you're done. The return on our investment is immense. In 1 year, we grew by 25%. And I would honestly say it was really those 3 things that we implemented right away. It was essential.
So obviously, you've seen a lot of changes happen in the industry. You've implemented this ERP system to track all your inventory, your invoice, your customer data. You had issues with acquiring good reviews from your customers. You figured out that was social proof is an important part of a successful business. People want to check you out before they actually do business with you, right? And then all these things that you've implemented had a big impact on your business. And you said there are some other life lessons you've learned in terms of why you should prioritize your customer and the customer service aspect of it. Talk to me a little bit about how that has helped you from a customer retention standpoint.
Oh, definitely, immensely. Like I mentioned earlier, we use $0 on advertising and marketing for 20 plus years. My dad realize that if you treat the customer really, really well, you bend over backwards for them, you do everything that they need. You got to study them really well. What are they looking for? Is it pricing? Is it speed? What is it? And then you just target that, and then they will spread the word. And so for us, it's always been very, very important. I never want to get to a point where we're so big that we lose that touch with our customer. For example, there's one of the things that my sister's always adamant about. We don't want to implement one of those phone service systems where it's like, you've called Osorio, press 1, press 2, press 3. We want a live person to answer the phone always, because that's what our customers are used to, and they like that personal touch. I'll answer the phone sometimes and direct their phone call to whoever they need to. So that you just have to. Otherwise, and you have to be passionate about it too. Then why are you there if you're not really paying attention to your customers and looking to and pleasing them? I think that's one of the biggest things that have
What are some
made
of the
us
proactive
successful.
things? Obviously, you have your answering phone directly, so you're not having them go through a phone tree to figure out who to talk to. What other proactive measures have you taken to make sure that the customer service aspect of it is never overlooked?
We ask them directly. Like I go up to them, so how are you today? How has service been? Or if we notice that someone hasn't been around for a while, because like I mentioned before, we see the same faces every day for years. And if we sort of notice that one of those customers hasn't been haven't been in for a while, we'll call them. Hey, what's going on? Is everything okay? Are we doing something wrong? Or they may say we've been on vacation. They may say pricing is not as good. They may say whatever it is, but it gives us information, vital information, so that we can change whatever it is that they may feel like they don't want to come to us anymore. So you just have to be really in tune with them.
So I know you're in it for about 4 years now. You've had the business training, and your dad and your sister was running it before that. You got into the picture. You've implemented a lot of things. You've learned a lot. So knowing what you know from your direct experience and also from what you've heard from your dad and your sister, what would you do differently if you had to do this business again?
Honestly, it's mainly working on the business, not in the business. I think change would have occurred much quicker because you're able to take yourself out of it and identify problems much quicker than if you're constantly working in the grime of it. But and then you're able to get clarity that way. And through the program that I went through last year, the entrepreneurship program, they sort of gave you that clarity, and you're able to take yourself out of the business and see, oh my goodness, I'm spending a lot of time in the wrong thing, or I could hire someone to do the mundane tasks every day so that my brain and me, it could be much rather well spent on other things to grow the business. So that's probably the only thing I would change. Other than that, I mean, I am who I am because of maybe the mistakes I've made along the way and learning from my father and my sister. No one's gonna know it all. You're just kind of learn it while you go. But for sure, working on rather than in is literally life-changing in the business realm, completely.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And as far as obviously there's the mundane things, there still has issues that you have to put out the fire. You have challenges, maybe the inventory isn't there, that you need to meet a specific deadline, or unhappy customer, someone called in sick. There's always some sort of a fire that you as a business owner have to deal with, right? So how do you keep that fire going in terms of, hey, I have to do this. This is my call of duty. So how do you keep that fire?
It always goes back to the why, Sam. Like literally there's days where, we've all had them, where you're just like, I'm done. I'm so stressed out. I just want to like walk away. But I always bring myself to like, absolutely not. What's the why? And my why is always my dad's legacy. He spent years and years building this business, bootstrapping the old school way, first one in, last one out. And for me, I always think, absolutely not. You're not going to just let it go to waste, all of his efforts. No, you better put yourself together and keep going. You just got to keep going. You're going to have bad days, you're going to have good days. Hopefully the good days are much better than the bad days, but it always goes back to the why, and you have to be passionate about it. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's what keeps me here.
Yeah, I think Simon Sinek wrote an entire book called The Start With Why.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's a great book to read as well. And I think he talked a little bit about how Apple and some of those big companies do have that why figured out, because that's really what keeps the company's vision alive. Sometimes, they can have product changes, they can have industry changes, but if you have that why figured out, it will keep you going even past the industry trends or anything else that might get in the way.
Yep, I completely agree. Yep.
So you're in a, male-dominated space. Metalworking is not the most sexiest thing that, women probably want to get into. It's not fashion or anything like that.
Right.
So how do you, stay relevant in that kind of an industry where you have now two girls that are running the shop that was started obviously by her, by their dad. But what are some of the things that you had to deal with as being a female entrepreneur?
My sister and I recently went to an expo in San Antonio, and all of the booths were men, and we're the only two Latin chicks walking around in our heels, and we went up to a booth and they sort of just disregarded us, and we felt a little defeated, and we felt sort of like, gee, we should be taken, because normally we go with my father. When my father's next to us, they do take us seriously, but we didn't have him with us. But honestly, after that, we were just like, okay, Anne, just keep going. Don't take it personal. It is what it is. You're gonna face that at times. Hopefully the times are changing and it might diminish a little bit. But in our everyday business realm, There are 4 of us girls, or 5 of us girls at work now in a male-dominated industry, and I think it gives it a little bit more touch to it. I don't know, there's a little bit more chatter going on in the office, and we women have a certain different touch than men do, I think. And in my opinion, it's just don't take it personal, keep going, do what you have to do, and be bold, and that's it. Just be confident. Don't care about the naysayers or the ones that overlook you. Yeah.
Makes sense. So, obviously you're, like you said, you have a lot of things that you've done, in over the years that you've tested, and you have, implemented a lot of new things within the last 4 years. So some of the lessons learned, what are some of the life lessons you would give to someone who's starting an entrepreneurial career or starting to build a new business, or even in a business but hasn't made that, the progress? What are some of the things would you give them as an advice?
I always go back to this one lesson that a professor gave me back in college. It's called the leaping pig, and it's a picture, and you can Google it. It's a picture of a pig who's jumping off of a dock boldly in full fashion onto a lake. And pigs don't swim, but he's just taking the leap and into the unknown. And so for entrepreneurs, a lot of times you are stepping into the unknown, but just go for it. Like, a lot of times I have to go out of my comfort zone, but I'm like, if you don't do it, you're never gonna get anywhere, you're never gonna grow. So that's one of the things that I've always had to, I always look back at that one picture where I'm faced with a certain thing that I'm not comfortable with. I'll seek advice from others, like if it's something that I have no idea about, like, I don't know, accounting or something, I'll reach out to others for help. Other things mainly that I've learned along the way from my sister and my father's, it's just treating your customers right and your employees. That has always been at the top of our list because it really makes all the difference. And then always be innovating and adapting to your environment. As I mentioned before, you might get to a place, but you won't stay there if you don't adapt and grow. And entrepreneurship, truly, the definition is it's growth.
Creator.
It is. And if you're not, you're just a business owner. So you have to constantly be, watching the market, looking at your environment, what's going on, what's going to happen in the future, and adapt to it. And if you're not, you just might be irrelevant. So that's my one little bit of piece of advice that I've learned along the way. So just go for it is my thing.
Speaking of that, like learning about the industry and things like that, what are some of the things you're doing proactively to stay abreast? Do you have a network of friends or a board of directors or anything like that you use, or certain audios, books or anything that you listen to? Yes,
I do have a peer group. It's entrepreneur women's group that we meet once a month, and we sort of just we rotate problems. Like today I'll present my problem, and then they'll give me feedback as to what they suggest. And it's so great because you hear different feedbacks, and you're like, oh, I didn't know you did that in your business. I could totally use that. Or they may know things that you never even heard of. So that's one of the things. I also in the past did sign up with like a one-on-one mentor I had for about 4 or 5 months. It's a service. That was also very helpful because if they could help you with direct problems. Like they will walk you through the problem, hold your hand through it. I did that. I do listen to some podcasts, not as much as I would like to. And then I read books here and there, but also not as frequent as I would like to. And honestly, it's keeping with my entrepreneur peers. I'm lucky enough to have 30 or so entrepreneur contacts from the class I took a year ago with Goldman Sachs. And I try and keep up with them and keep in touch, because if you pick their brain, they might know something, they might say something that will trigger something in you, and it might make a difference. So I don't know, just always surround yourself with like-minded people, kind-hearted people, smart people, and just always be inquisitive and try to learn as much as you can in life. Don't just keep yourself in like a shell, which I used to be, by the way, but you have to leap and just forget about it and come out of it.
Any parting wisdom for our audience?
Yes, I just always go back to the leaping pig analogy of taking the leap, don't look back, and just be bold.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you, Sam. It was such a pleasure. It was fun.
This episode of Coffee with Closers is brought to you by One IMS, a leading digital marketing agency helping businesses win new customers. To request a free marketing ROI audit, please visit oneims.com. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. To make sure you never miss an episode, please subscribe.